suddenly realize what's being created here are directions. Well, next step is try to make sense out of that. Well, as I went into that, I finally realized that you've got forward, backward, right, left, up, down. And I realized they're all at right angles to each other. And then I began to realize that forward and backward are not opposites. They're a double right angle away from each other, but they're not opposites. You could say that forward and right are opposed. Forward and up is opposed. Right and up is opposed, but not opposite. Now, opposite's one meaning. Opposed is another. So I recognize that right angle, or 90 degrees, not only does it exist in almost everything in this universe, I recognize that it seems to constitute some basic principle in origin itself, in the existence of this universe, its construction. And I then began to understand there's forward, backward, right, left, up, and down. There's 6. There's out and in, collectively. So there's 8. Now actually there's 9 directions. But the 8 that I just described to you, including out and in, these are the directions of man, and these are the directions that he's aware of. The other direction, I normally hesitate to describe that because most people, it's not that they wouldn't understand it, it's that they wouldn't accept it. So here we not only have a question of understanding it, we have a question of the acceptance of it in normal terms. The only thing I can tell you is that when you want to know what is the 9th direction, keep it in mind that it's not something of man. It's not one of man's directions. So now I'll just simply, quietly, straightforward give it to you. If I have a loved one now, and I get a telephone call and somebody tells me my loved one has just been injured or sick or something disastrous has happened, I'm going to go straight to my loved one. Straight. I may have to climb up here, climb down there, turn here, turn there, go upstairs, go around curves and things. What I'm not doing is I'm not stopping to talk to a friend. I'm not stopping to have a drink. I'm not just dawdling around. I'm going straight there. Even though I am using all the directions of man, forward, backward, right, left, up, down, out, in, I'm going straight to that loved one. Nothing can swerve me aside to the right, the left, up, down, or anything. I'm going straight there. And you do the same in your love. Love is this 9th direction. God is this 9th direction. And I don't have to be religious to say this. This is God in the sense that this is straight, without shadow of turning, as the Bible says it, neither to the right nor to the left. It is straight. This is truth. For truth is straight. There's no side way here, side way there, little explanation here, little explanation there. Straight and narrow. It's not a wide path. When you're studying science and you're learning new things, straight to it. No turning aside. Straight. No stopping. No backing up, nothing. You go straight to it. This is that other direction. This is that direction, for it says that God is a way unto himself. A way is a direction. This way, that way, that way, that way. Now, these are directions. And he's a way unto himself. This is a direction unto itself. This is that direction which made the first physical directions that man operates with. All right, so there's the 9th direction. It's the direction of creation. And that's how I have to speak of it. Now, I then began to understand, as I continued my research, that if, let's say we have a sheet of paper here to use for the blank. Basically, the paper's endless. The blank has no borders to it, there's no end of it. But we'll use the sheet of paper, it's convenient. Now, if I put a line across that paper and I bend the paper, the line will bend with the paper. So let's get back to this blank sheet of paper, nice and flat, and I'm going to put a little arrow here implying a direction across the paper. Now, there's no line there, I'm just implying with a little arrow that this direction exists across this sheet of paper. Now if I bend the paper, the arrow here still keeps going straight. It does not bend with the paper. Fine. Now, the property of a direction is that it is not bound by this physical universe in any normal sense. The sun is up here. It's a cloudy day, but the sun's up there in this direction approximately. The moon is down here through the earth in this direction approximately. The direction goes completely through the planet Earth and nothing affects it. It's straight this way. I can point to the end of the universe in this direction, that direction, and it goes completely to the end of the universe this quick. Nothing in the universe affects the direction. A direction is not a physical property. Now, if we have this blank sheet of paper, I told you blank plus blank equals 0. That's the mathematics of it. Now let's look at the physics. I have a direction here crossing the blank. Now I have a blank here and a blank here divided by a direction. I now have the physical evidence of 0. I have blank and blank. I have two blanks. The presence of the direction means that I now have a 0 property. Now I'll put another direction this way. Remember, I've got a sheet of paper here. So now I'll put in a direction this way plus this way. Now I have a blank, a blank, a blank, and a blank. Now, 2, 4, 6, 8, an even quantity of blanks always equals 0. An odd quantity of blanks will equal 1, or an odd number. I told you blank plus blank, 2 blanks, equals 0. Blank plus 0 equals 1. That's 3 blanks. Blank plus 1 equals 0. Now, when I get a blackboard, I'll show this to you. I'll put out the law. However, now I have 2 directions here across the blank. Now I'm going to put a third one like this. Now remember, I've got 2 directions here already, so when I put the third one, I've got the outlines now of a triangle in there. Now for the first time in the history of this universe, the first time in its origin, I now have an enclosed space and an outside space. Now I can talk about the concept of space. Prior to that, I could not talk of space. I couldn't prove such a concept. Now, with that triangle, I can. The triangle is only the outlines of a triangle made by directions. Now, I'm going to put another few directions here. I'm going to put one like this, one like this, one like this. And now I've got a pyramid. Now, this little pyramid made of directions, when you actually do the mathematics, which I'll tell you about later, you will find that this pyramid actually tumbles in such a manner that it describes a sine wave. In other words, this little crystal made of directions is what we call a photon of light, and its path is that which we call a wave of light. In other words, we have the particle and undulatory nature of light, and this is its origin. Light is made of directions, organized, formed. Now, I don't prove the Bible, and the Bible doesn't prove me. We're both separated. I'm not religious. Some of my friends say I'm the most religious person they ever heard of. The Bible points out that darkness was created. It's a created thing. And the Bible then says that God formed light from the darkness. Well, in 1960, this is what I also discovered, is that if I take the darkness, which is directions chaotic, in other words, they're not combined together, they're just simply directions chaotic. This is what we call darkness. But when I take the directions and combine them together to make forms out of them, that is light. And this is what I discovered. Now, I had never read the Bible in my life until 1964, later in 64. I made these discoveries in 1960. My understanding of the Bible is that it's a bunch of garbage, a bunch of fantasies, and by 1964 I had a problem in my research, and I was asking friends of mine, can you tell me something fantastic, something insane, something crazy, something silly? I don't care what you say. I need somebody to say something that I've never quite heard before, and maybe I can use this as a means of attack on my problem, because I would attack the problem every possible direction trying to crack it open to disprove it or prove it or something as a means of going further, making further progress. And finally my friends got tired of me. And one friend says, look, why don't you read the Bible? You're always asking for something fantastic, bunch of fantasy. Read the Bible. It's filled with it. I thought that was brilliant. Everybody that I'd ever heard had said the Bible is a bunch of fantasy, a bunch of stuff like that. So I went to a library and I got a Bible. And I read the thing. I opened it up and started reading. And then I was stunned. Because the very first part of it, the very first part of Genesis, is describing that darkness is created from a void, a blank. And darkness is created, and then light is formed from the darkness. And then it's also pointing out that life existed upon this planet. Reread Genesis, and now watch what it very carefully says. Word for word, don't gloss the words over, don't let your mind just wander over them. Word for word, it says life existed on this planet before the light of the sun or the stars had been made. And the evidence of zoologists and others who study living forms is that life, the majority of living forms, had existed before sunlight, before starlight.